The severance paperwork sat between us, crisp and insulting, while the 30-year-old executive smirked over his kombucha. He thought he was cutting dead weight, but he didn't realize he had just severed the digital lifeline keeping the company's FDA compliance alive. I gave them 15 minutes before the wheels would come off. My name is Harold Morrison, and at 53 years old, I thought I'd seen enough corporate stupidity to last a lifetime. After 18 years keeping Precision Medical's manufacturing systems running and 6 years in the Air Force before that, I figured I'd earned the right to coast into retirement with some dignity. I was wrong. The silence in the conference room was thick, broken only by Jerome Walsh's pen tapping against the polished table. He wasn't even looking at me. He was staring out the window, pretending to have some deep executive burden he hadn't earned. "So, Harold," Jerome said, finally turning toward me. His eyes had that glazed-over confidence of someone who's never had to worry about medical bills. "We feel we're at a crossroads here." I sat perfectly still, my hands folded in my lap. My heart was hammering, but I kept my voice steady, the same voice I used when the autoclave systems failed in 2021. The same voice I used when FDA inspectors showed up unannounced last spring. It was the voice of the person who fixes things. "I'm not sure I follow Jerome." Jerome sighed, a theatrical exhale that fluttered the paperwork Nicole Stevens had slid across the table. Nicole couldn't look at me. She was studying a scratch on the table, her face red with shame. "It's about velocity," Jerome said, leaning forward. He was wearing a Patagonia vest over a t-shirt that probably cost more than my truck payment. "Precision Medical is pivoting to Industry 4.0. We need smart manufacturing. We need AI-driven optimization. And frankly, Harold, your methodology is traditional. It's legacy." He said legacy like it was a disease. "My methodology," I said slowly, "passed the last 3 FDA audits without a single violation. My systems are currently processing 12,000 device serializations per day with 0 errors." Jerome waved his hand like he was swatting a fly. "That's exactly the point. You're focused on maintenance. We're focused on disruption. We need people who aren't afraid to break things to make them better." He signaled Nicole. She finally looked up and pushed the folder toward me. "We've prepared a transition package," she said, her voice thin. 112 weeks severance, outplacement services, health coverage through month end." My stomach dropped. They had no idea how much Linda's treatments cost. My mind didn't go to my career or my pride. It went straight to my wife. Linda had been fighting multiple sclerosis for 3 years now, and her medications ran $4,000 a month. The experimental treatments weren't covered by basic insurance. Everything was tied to Precision Medical's policy. The policy this kid was about to revoke. 12 weeks, I repeated. "I've been here 18 years, Nicole. It's standard for this restructuring tier." Jerome cut in, checking his Apple Watch. He was bored. Actually bored while he destroyed my livelihood. "Look, Harold, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Sign the papers, hand over your badge, and we'll call it a day. We need your office cleared by 5 p.m. for the new automation engineers coming Monday." He stood up, grabbing his drink. The condensation left a ring right next to the termination letter. "We appreciate your service," he said, turning his back to check his phone. "But the future waits for no one." I looked at his back. I looked at the severance agreement, then a strange calm washed over me. It was the cold clarity of an Air Force tech realizing the hydraulics are failing and there's nothing left to do but prepare for impact. I stood up. I didn't reach for the pen. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my security badge, and slid it across the table. It spun slowly, stopping between his overpriced drink and the legal documents. "You've got about 15 minutes, I said. Jerome paused. He half turned, confused. "Excuse me, 15 minutes until the wheels come off, maybe less. Is that a threat?" Jerome scoffed nervously. "Because I can have security escort you out right now." "I'm not making threats, Jerome. I'm stating facts." I looked him dead in the eye. "Good luck finding my documentation." I walked out of that conference room. The betrayal didn't feel like a stab in the back. It felt like a diagnosis. Cold, clinical, and terminal. The walk to the elevator felt like walking underwater. I passed the clean room entrance. My domain for 18 years. I knew every piece of equipment in there. I knew which temperature sensor in line 3 needed recalibration every 6 months. I knew which network cable in the ceiling had intermittent issues when the building shifted in winter. I passed cubicles filled with people I'd helped. There was Susan from quality control. I'd written the batch tracking system that let her catch contaminated lots before they shipped. She waved, smiling. She didn't know yet. There was Tyler from production. I'd automated the shift reports so he could leave at 5 instead of 7 to coach his daughter's soccer team. He was laughing on the phone. I couldn't wave back. I stepped into the elevator and pressed the button for the lobby. As the doors closed, sealing me off from the 8th floor, the weight hit me. Unemployed at 53 with a wife fighting MS and a pension 2 years away from full vesting. My knees buckled slightly, and I had to lean against the railing. I walked out into the afternoon sun. The city noise assaulted my senses. I felt exposed without that badge on my hip. I was just another middle-aged man on the sidewalk, invisible and irrelevant. I didn't go to my truck. I couldn't sit in traffic right now. Instead, I walked 2 blocks to Murphy's Tap. It was a dive bar in the best sense, dark, smelling of old wood and floor wax, where the music was never too loud and the drinks were never watered down. Nathan Cooper was behind the bar wiping down glasses. He was ex-Army, a man whose silence was more comforting than most people's conversation. He took one look at my face and didn't ask what I wanted. He just reached for the maker's mark. He poured a double neat and slid it across the scarred wood. "They finally did it," Nathan asked. His voice was gravel worn down by years of desert sand and diesel fumes. "Yep, effective immediately. Bastards, how long you give them?" I glanced at my watch. It was 4:43 p.m. 12 minutes, I said. Nathan raised an eyebrow. "That precise? It's a house of cards, Nathan." I was the only one holding the foundation together. I took a sip of bourbon. The burn was grounding. I looked down at my phone. It was black and silent, but I knew what was happening in the silicon chips 4 blocks away. You see, Jerome and his team of innovators had forgotten one crucial thing. They assumed systems ran on magic and good intentions. They didn't understand that every manufacturing line, every quality control check, every FDA audit trail that kept their company alive depended on authentication protocols I'd built during weekend overtime shifts. At 4:55 p.m., the daily authentication token for the manufacturing execution system was scheduled to refresh. For the last 5 years, that refresh had been handled by a script I wrote Men's Guardian Pi. It lived in a secure directory on my admin profile, set to execute when my credentials were validated. But I wasn't logged in anymore. My account had been disabled the moment I walked out of that room. "You look like you're waiting for something to explode," Nathan observed, pouring himself coffee. "Not an explosion, more like suffocation. Imagine oxygen being sucked out of a room. First you don't notice, then you get lightheaded, then suddenly you can't breathe." I paused. I built the oxygen system, and I just took the key with me. To understand why this hurt so much, you have to understand what precision medical used to be. When I started in 2005, it was a serious company run by people who understood that manufacturing heart monitors and ventilators required precision. Lives depended on our devices working perfectly. I didn't just write code. I built the digital nervous system that kept patients alive. I'd spent nights sleeping on a cot in the server room during the great power outage of 2019. I'd missed my 20th wedding anniversary dinner because a cyber attack tried to encrypt our production database, and I had to manually rebuild the firewall packet by packet. I saved the company $2 million that night. My reward was a firm handshake from the old CEO and a generic employee appreciation plaque, and I was fine with that. I wasn't in it for glory. I was in it because when a paramedic in Ohio hooked up our cardiac monitor, it worked. When a hospital in Texas needed our ventilators, they functioned perfectly. Then came Jerome. Jerome Walsh, 30 years old, MBA from some school where the curriculum apparently consisted entirely of buzzwords and confidence training. He arrived 10 months ago after the board decided they needed digital transformation. His first act as VP of Digital Operations was to install a standing desk treadmill in his office. His second was to call a department-wide meeting and tell us our infrastructure was embarrassingly archaic. He didn't look at our 99.94% uptime. He didn't ask why we had 0 product recalls. He just saw that our user interfaces weren't pretty enough. "Harold," he'd said to me in our first one-on-one 3 weeks before the firing. He was bouncing on his heels, AirPods gleaming. "Why are we paying for these custom scripts? There are cloud platforms that do this. The cloud platforms don't handle our FDA validation requirements, Jerome. I wrote those scripts to bridge the gap between our legacy quality systems and the new ERP portal. Without them, we lose audit trail compliance. So we migrate the data," he said, like it was that simple. "That's an 18-month validation project. Until then, my scripts are the only thing keeping us FDA compliant." He actually rolled his eyes. You engineers always complicate things to justify your existence. Classic job security engineering. That was the moment I knew. He didn't see me as an asset. He saw me as an expensive obstacle standing between him and his transformation bonus. He started cutting me out of meetings. He stopped copying me on system decisions. He hired consultants, a group of 25-year-olds, to audit my work. They produced a 40-page report concluding the IT department was bloated with legacy dependencies. Through it all, I kept working. I kept the systems running because that's what you do. You do the job. But sitting at Murphy's, I realized that doing the job had been my fatal flaw. I'd made it look too easy. I'd smoothed out the bumps so effectively that Jerome thought the road was naturally flat. He was about to hit a pothole the size of the Grand Canyon. My phone buzzed. I stared at it. The screen lit up with a notification from the company's automated alert system. A system I designed to text admins when critical failures occurred.
Alert.
Miss authentication failure. Production line 1 stopped. I looked at my watch, 4:56 p.m. Right on time, the phone buzzed again. Alert, quality control database offline. FDA audit trail compromised. I took another sip of bourbon. The vibration felt like justice. It's starting, I said to Nathan. The phone didn't just buzz, it convulsed. It danced across the wood, vibrating with desperate energy that mirrored the chaos I knew was unfolding 4 blocks away. Incoming call. Nicole Stevens. Incoming call. Jerome Walsh. Text from Tyler Production. Harold, everything's red on the boards. You seeing this? Text from Jerome. Need you to call me ASAP emergency. You gonna answer? Nathan asked, eyeing the device like a live grenade. Nope, I'm not on the payroll anymore. I'm just a guy having a drink. I flipped the phone face down. The vibration continued, but I ignored it. Instead, I pulled a small notebook from my jacket pocket. Old Air Force habit, always keep a log. I opened it to today's date and uncapped my pen. 4:56 p.m. minus MES authentication failure, initiated 5:05 p.m. Estimated cascade to quality control systems 5:30 p.m. Production lines will lose FDA compliant status. I was writing my career's obituary, but also Jerome's reputation's death certificate. I finished my drink, paid Nathan with a $20 bill, and told him to keep the change. If anyone comes looking for me, you haven't seen me since Tuesday. Nathan nodded. Go home, Harold. Get some sleep. I walked to my F-150, drove slow through traffic, listening to classic rock while my phone continued vibrating like a trapped insect. The radio was playing some old Eagles song about taking it easy, and for the first time in months, I actually felt like I could. When I got home, the house was quiet. It was a modest ranch Linda and I bought 22 years ago. The mortgage was almost paid off, but we'd refinanced twice for medical bills. Linda was resting on the couch, a blanket pulled to her chin. MS fatigue hit her hard in the afternoons. I kissed her forehead gently. She stirred but didn't wake. Her medication schedule was posted on the refrigerator, a complex chart of pills and injection times that cost more than most people's rent. The sight of that schedule made my jaw clench. Jerome had no idea what he'd just done to my family. I walked into my study and went straight to the fireproof safe. I dialed the combination and pulled out my employment contract from 2005. I needed to be sure. I flipped to page 12, section 7, subsection C, intellectual property rights regarding personal development tools. Any automated scripts, utilities, or software tools created by the employee for workflow optimization, developed outside core business hours, without proprietary company resources, shall remain employee property. Company granted non-exclusive license during active employment term only. I'd written that clause myself after seeing other companies steal employee innovations. When I signed with Precision, the old legal counsel had laughed, planning to invent the next Microsoft Herald, just protecting my toolkit. I looked at my file cabinet full of documentation. I had logs of every weekend hour spent coding. Timestamps showing 2 a.m. on Saturdays, 11 p.m. on Sundays. Git commit histories proving development on my personal laptop using open source libraries. I wasn't just an ex-employee, I was a landlord who just evicted a tenant. My phone chimed with a priority text from Michael, my son. Dad, insurance card declined at campus pharmacy. Can't get refill. Call me. The calm evaporated. They'd cut benefits already. Someone in HR had terminated the policy immediately instead of waiting for month end. I called the pharmacy. Put it on my personal card, Shell. I'll sort the insurance later. Everything okay, Mr. Morrison? Everything's fine? Just a system glitch. After hanging up, I looked at the 52 text messages from Precision Medical. The panic was palpable. Jerome, Harold, pick up. This isn't funny, Jerome. Whole production floor is down. FDA inspector arrives tomorrow. Nicole, please call back. Board asking questions. Tyler. Dude, whatever happened? They're freaking out upstairs. I smiled. A cold, mirthless smile. Call them, I whispered to the empty room. I didn't sleep well that night. Not from worry, from adrenaline. It was the feeling before combat operations in Afghanistan. The satisfaction of a plan executed flawlessly. I woke at 6 a.m., made coffee, and sat on my back porch. The sunrise painted the sky in soft colors, contrasting with the digital apocalypse raging downtown. Linda joined me, wrapped in her favorite robe. Despite the MS, she moved with determination. It was one of the things I'd always loved about her. You're up early, she said, settling beside me. Couldn't sleep. Something happened at work. She sipped her coffee. After 25 years of marriage, she could read my moods like weather patterns. They let you go, she said. It wasn't a question. The insurance, I'm handling it. How bad is it going to get? I looked at her, the woman who'd stood by me through 4 deployments and 3 job changes, who was fighting MS with more grace than I'd ever shown fighting corporate politics. It's going to get very bad for them, but we're going to be fine. At 7 a.m. sharp, my phone rang. Unknown number, DC area code, probably corporate lawyers. I let it ring. At 7:15, it rang again. Same number. At 7:30, Jerome called. Linda raised an eyebrow. Sounds like someone needs you. I swiped to answer. Hello, Harold? Jerome's voice was high-pitched, stripped of its cool veneer. I could hear shouting in the background. Where have you been? I've been calling all night. I'm unemployed, Jerome. I was sleeping in. That's what us legacy folks do. Cut the crap. What did you do? The entire production floor is down. We can't ship anything. We're bleeding $98,000 an hour. I didn't do anything, Jerome. Don't lie. It worked yesterday morning, you left, and 3 hours later everything crashed. You planted a logic bomb. Pull the logs. Check them thoroughly. You won't find malicious code. You won't find a virus. Then why isn't it working? Because the MES Guardian script failed to authenticate. The automation that handles token exchange between your quality systems and the production database. Pause. The what? The script, Jerome? It runs every afternoon at 4:55. It requires valid user credentials. My credentials, which you disabled. So fix it. Share the password. My account was terminated. Remember, effective immediately. Then I'll reinstate you. Temporary contractor status. Just come in and fix it. No, excuse me? I said, no, I'm not coming in, Jerome. Linda squeezed my hand, understanding exactly what was happening. Listen. Jerome's voice dropped, trying to sound menacing, but landing somewhere near petulant. If you don't fix this, I'll sue you for sabotage. You want to talk about property? Those scripts aren't company property, Jerome. They're mine. What, you wrote them at work? Check my contract. Section 7C. Personal development tools created without company resources remain employee property. I licensed them to Precision during my employment. I paused for effect. You terminated me. License expired. Long silence, you're bluffing. Ask legal. And Jerome, you mentioned legacy systems in the meeting. Those scripts were legacy. You got exactly what you wanted, fully streamlined. Harold, please. You have about 90 minutes before the FDA compliance database locks into read-only mode. If that happens, you can't ship a single device until you restore from tape backups. That takes 4 days. How do I stop it? You don't. You're VP of Digital Operations. Operate digitally. I hung up. Linda was grinning. That was beautiful. It's not over yet. By noon, it was on the news. We sat watching CNBC. Precision Medical Corp down 18% after production halt. FDA compliance systems reportedly compromised. Company claims technical difficulties, but sources suggest critical system failure. The ticker scrolled across the bottom. PREC 4-time 2-minute market cap loss in morning trading. My phone had been ringing constantly. I'd retained Malcolm Foster, an old Air Force buddy specializing in employment law. Harold. Malcolm called at 2 p.m. This contract is rock solid, but they're threatening emergency injunction. Stocks in free fall. Let it fall. Board of Directors wants to negotiate. That's when Nicole called. Harold, please don't hang up. I'm here, Nicole. The board is meeting in an hour. They want you on a conference call. As what? As a consultant, Jerome is struggling to explain the technical details. Chairman asked for you specifically. I looked at Linda, who was following every word. She nodded. Tell the chairman my consulting fee is $2,500 per hour, 4-hour minimum, paid in advance, and I want Jerome on the line, silent, listening to every word. Nicole gasped. Harold, I can't authorize that, then don't, but tell the board the compliance database locks in 75 minutes. Once it does, unlocking requires full restoration. That's 4 days minimum, assuming no data corruption. 4 days. Nicole, every minute that production line stays down, you're losing FDA compliance documentation. The inspector who's supposed to arrive tomorrow? If he sees missing audit trails, you're looking at a warning letter. Maybe worse, the line went quiet. I'll tell them. The wire transfer came at 3:42 p.m. 10,000 precision. Medical emergency fund. My phone rang immediately. Mr. Morrison, Gerald Hughes, board chairman. I'm here, Mr. Hughes. We've accepted your terms. Funds transferred. We're currently losing approximately $105,000 every hour. Can you restore operations? One moment. I'm accessing the admin portal. I paused for effect. Or I would be if my credentials hadn't been revoked. I reactivated them an hour ago. Jerome's voice cut in, shrill and defensive. Thank you, Jerome. I'm logging in now. I typed my credentials slowly, deliberately. I'm in, then fix it, Jerome shouted. I'm analyzing the system logs. It appears you attempted a manual override 6 hours ago. Is that correct? Silence? Mr. Walsh? Hughes's voice was dangerous. Did you attempt an override? We were trying to restore service, Jerome stammered. Harold's legacy code was blocking everything. You corrupted the compliance index, I said, continuing my analysis. If the system had locked down as scheduled, that corruption would have been permanent. You would have lost 18 years of FDA audit trails. That's not possible. Jerome yelled. Can you restore operations? Hughes asked. Yes, I'm executing MES Guardian manually, also repairing the index corruption Jerome created. I hit enter. Authenticating. Success. Token refreshed. Index repair, 25%, 50%, 75%. 100%. Systems green. We're seeing restoration. Someone said in the background. Production lines coming online, quality systems responding. See? Jerome said desperately. Simple fix. He could have done this yesterday. Shut up, Jerome, Hughes said with finality. Mr. Morrison, you mentioned documentation. Mr. Walsh claims none existed. I just emailed you 180 pages of operational procedures. Also included Jerome's directive ordering deletion of all paper documentation because static docs are efficiency killers. The silence was deafening. He ordered you to delete documentation? Yes, sir. When I objected, he threatened disciplinary action for resisting digital transformation initiatives. Mr. Morrison, thank you. The board will review these materials immediately. One more thing. My consulting contract includes ownership clauses. The scripts I just executed belong to me. For continued use, you need a licensing agreement. You can't do that. Jerome screamed, that's extortion. That's capitalism, Jerome. Check Section 7C of my employment contract. Draft the agreement, Hughes said instantly. Standard enterprise rates. We'll have legal review this afternoon. And Jerome, I could almost hear Hughes's cold smile through the phone. Clear out your office. Security will escort you. I hung up. Linda was watching from the kitchen doorway, a proud smile on her face. How does it feel? She asked. Like justice. 6 months later, I was sitting in my new office at Advanced Manufacturing Solutions, Director of Production Systems, 60% salary increase, full benefits package, and the respect that comes with being treated like the expert you are. Jerome had been demoted to Senior Systems Analyst within hours of that call. Last I heard, he was working under close supervision, forced to learn actual manufacturing operations instead of implementing buzzword solutions. The irony wasn't lost on me. He was now exactly what he'd accused me of being, legacy support, but the real victory was smaller, quieter. Linda's new insurance covered experimental MS treatments that were showing promising results. Her energy was returning. Michael finished his engineering degree debt-free. Sarah had been promoted to charge nurse in the ICU, following her passion for helping people, something she'd learned from watching both her parents. I kept the licensing agreement with Precision Medical. They pay me $8,000 quarterly now to use systems they once took for granted. Not a fortune, but respect money, payment for expertise they couldn't replace and couldn't afford to lose again. The new Precision Medical CEO, brought in after the board fired half the executive team, had personally called to apologize. "We should have listened to you," he'd said. "Experience matters." That evening, I came home to find Linda in the kitchen. Energy fully returned, cooking dinner and laughing at something on the radio. No medication anxiety, no insurance stress, no midnight worries about medical bills. She was wearing the apron I'd bought her for Christmas 10 years ago, the one that said "World's Best Cook," corny, but true. "How was your day?" she asked. Same question she'd asked for 25 years. "Good. I designed a backup system that could survive nuclear war." "Of course you did." She kissed my cheek. "You always were my superhero." I looked out our kitchen window at the sunset painting our backyard golden. The mortgage was paid off. The retirement account was healthy. Our kids were thriving. Linda was getting better. I thought briefly about Jerome, probably still wondering how his digital transformation had transformed him right out of his dream job. Then I stopped thinking about him entirely, because that's the thing about building systems that last. You don't just create code that survives. You build a life that endures. You protect what matters. You stand your ground when it counts. And when some kid in a Patagonia vest thinks he knows better than 18 years of experience, you let him find out exactly how much he doesn't know. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do to a company is make yourself indispensable, because the day they think they don't need you anymore, they'll discover exactly how wrong they were. In corporate America, they'll call you legacy right up until their shiny new systems crash. Then suddenly, legacy becomes the only thing standing between them and disaster. And that's when they remember. There's no substitute for someone who actually knows what they're doing. The old ways aren't always the best ways, but they're the proven ways. And in a world where lives depend on machines working perfectly, proven beats pretty every single time. I'd learned that lesson in the Air Force. I'd applied it at Precision Medical, and I'd used it to build a life worth living. That's legacy. Sometimes the biggest mistake a company can make is confusing innovation with replacement. Real progress builds on proven foundations. It doesn't burn them down. The most expensive lesson in business is learning that experience isn't the enemy of the future. It's the foundation that makes the future possible.
I'm freezing. I'm bleeding. Slowly fading away. But don't worry. I'm fine. The cold has settled in my heartbeat, like winter living in my veins. Every breath feels numb and fragile. Every smile just hides the pain. I'm breaking quietly in silence, falling slow without a sound. Yet I keep saying I'm okay, while my world burns to the ground. I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry. I'll pretend till my last breath, even while my soul is fading. I'll say everything's okay. Maybe pain just learned to live here. Maybe sorrow feels like home. So I wear my wounds like armor and survive them all alone. I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry. I'll pretend till my last breath, even while my soul is fading. I'll say everything's okay. If you ever see me smiling, no, it's just my last defense. 'Cause sometimes love means hiding how much you're suffering. No, I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry, I'll pretend till my last breath. Even while my soul is fading, I'll say everything's okay. It's okay.
They say just forget. Move on like it's easy. But forgetting you feels like remembering someone I've never seen. I've been trying to erase you from the places in my mind, but the harder that I fight it, the more you're hard to leave behind. Every memory keeps slipping through the cracks I try to close, like a face I should remember, but somehow never know. Forgetting you feels impossible, like chasing something I can't hold, like trying to remember someone that I've never even known. I keep reaching through the silence for a past I can't undo, 'cause letting go of what we had feels like losing something true. Every moment turns to fragments, every thought just fades to blue, like I'm searching for a feeling that still only leads to you. Forgetting you feels impossible, like chasing something I can't hold, like trying to remember someone that I've never even known. I keep reaching through the silence for a past I can't undo, 'cause letting go of what we had feels like losing something true. If I never met you, maybe I would know just how to heal, but now every empty moment still reminds me what is real. Forgetting you feels impossible, like chasing something I can't hold, like trying to remember someone that I've never even known. I keep reaching through the silence for a past I can't undo, 'cause letting go of what we had feels like losing something true.